Hey, welcome back to the data storytelling module. In our previous lessons, we have explored the foundations of data storytelling and how to craft a compelling narrative by identifying your audience and defining your key message. Today, we'll focus on a crucial aspect of data storytelling, visualizing your data. Effective visuals can make complex data accessible, highlighting key insights and enhance the overall impact of your story. Our objectives for these lessons are: first, choosing the right visualization for your data. Second, applying design principles to create clear and impactful visuals. And finally, we will exploring tools and resources to help you visualize your data. Let's get started. First, we're going to see the importance of data visualization. Why visualizing data is so important? Because it makes complex data accessible, makes it more digestible. It highlights key insights. It helps us to focus on our key message. Enhances the impact of your data story. And finally, aids in audience understanding and retention. It makes it more memorable and more relatable, and it leads to take action. Choosing the right visualization is key. Here we have an overview of different types of data visualization. Data visualization is the graphical representation of information and data. By using visual elements like charts, graphs, and maps, data visualization tools provide an accessible way to see and understand trends, outliers, and patterns in data. Here are some common types of data visualization. Bar charts compare quantities across different categories. So it's useful when we have to do comparisons. Line graphs, it shows trends over time. It shows how a trend behaves across time. Pie charts display proportion of a whole. And finally, scatter plots show relationships of or correlation between two variables. Here we have some more. First, histograms. It displays data distribution. After that, we have heat maps. Represent data density or intensity. Here we have a very common maps. It represents geographical representation of data. And finally, infographics. It combines visuals and text to tell a story. It helps you when you want to represent complex data. Choosing the right visualization is key again. You first have to ask yourself, what type of data do I have? Do I have categorical, numerical, time series? What do I want my audience to understand? What is my key message? What I am focusing on? And finally, which visualization will make the data easiest to comprehend? Remember that we have to be focused and simple, and we have to concentrate our efforts to send a message across to our audience. So we have to be very strategic in choose what a key message we are going to have, and all the data and all the information have to encompass and support that. Tips for creating clear and impactful visuals. Designing effective visuals is not just about making them look good. It's about making them communicate your message clearly. Here are some key design principles. First, simplicity. You have to keep your visuals uncluttered. Second, avoid unnecessary decoration or 3D effects. Focus on your data and make it readable. Finally, focus on the data that supports your key message, as I was telling before. After that, we have clarity. You have to use clear labels of legend. It have to be easier to understand. Use readable fonts and appropriate font sizes. Finally, ensure color contrast are sufficient for readability. And finally, consistency. It has to be homogeneous. Use consistent colors, fonts, and styles throughout your presentation. And finally, maintain the same scales on axes when comparing similar charts. It doesn't have to be misleading. Here we have our two last design principles. Emphasis and accuracy. When emphasizing, you have to highlight key data or trends. Use colors of annotations to draw attention to important information, keeping that in mind. And finally, accuracy. Start X's at 0 when appropriate to avoid misrepresenting data. And finally, ensure proportions in the pie charts reflect actual data. Here we have some common pitfalls to avoid. First, overcomplicating visuals. Too much information can overwhelm your audience. Avoid conveying too many variables in one chart. Misleading scales. Manipulating axes can distort your data through message. And finally, be transparent with your data representation. We have to be accurate. Here we have some more common pitfalls. First, inappropriate chart types. Using the wrong chart can confuse your audience. For example, using a pie chart for data that doesn't sum up to a whole. Full color choices. Colors that are too similar can be hard to distinguish. Be mindful of color blind friendly events. Ignoring your audience needs. Overlay technical visuals might not resonate with a general audience. Remember in our last lesson, we have to be mindful how we tailor our presentation, our message, depending on the audience. If we are presenting to colleagues or peers, we can allow us to be more technical. If it's a general audience, we have to be toned down. Finally, tailor complexity to your audience familiarity with the topic. Now we're going to see some bad versus good data visualization examples. Pie charts are best used when there are 2 to 3 items that make up a whole. Any more than that, it's difficult for the human eye to distinguish between the parts of a circle. Notice how hard it is to distinguish the size of these parts. Is China bigger than the other? It is hard for our eyes to tell the difference. Instead, replace it with a bar chart, the example we have on the right. Notice how China and other are fall apart, but we can easily distinguish that one is larger than the other. That's because our eyes are more sensitive to lengths of bar than parts of a circle. Bar charts will be your go-to chart for data visualization. In this case, here are another example. Multicolor bar charts. It might look pretty, the one on the left. And you might be wondering what's wrong with it. The more colors you use, the less comprehensible the visualization will be. More colors are equal to more categories that the brain must process. Now let's see the example on the right. Colors allow us to highlight whatever information we want. If we want to highlight the country with the biggest CO2 emission, we can use red versus gray. Notice how China immediately sticks out and get to the point across. Other times, it's a good idea to use multiple shades of the same color. Here are another example. Horizontal bar charts. Horizontal bar charts can suffer from the same issues as pie charts. Once there are too many categories, you run out of the space to include text and it becomes hard to digest. You can see here, there are too many categories and it's increasingly hard to read and digest and understand the whole thing. Instead, it's better to use a vertical bar, as the example we have on the right, by switching the axes around. This gives us unlimited space for including text. It's easier to include and easy to read for the brain to digest. Here's another example. Charts that don't start at zero. It is misleading. Sometimes it's okay to break the rules, but in general, bar charts should start at zero because our eyes are very sensitive to the size of the bars. Scatter plots at time series should always start at zero. Line graphs can sometimes break the rules. Since the y-axis doesn't start at zero, it's easy to fool someone that product 2 is failing, but in actuality, it's not. You can see the example, how very different is when we start the axis at zero, than here we are starting at 70. You can tell the difference. With the chart on the left, can be misleading. You can see the product 2 is like way far from product 1, but if you see the whole thing from the starting from zero, you see that the difference is not that much. So avoid to manipulate data in this way. Here we have our last example, unproportionate pie slices. Pie charts with too many categories are bad, but at least they are not on purpose misleading. Take a look to the chart on the left, for example. The visuals might look cute, but the numbers doesn't make sense. For instance, you can see the 38% slice is roughly twice of the size of 31 part, so that doesn't make sense. If we have to guess, the creator might have built the data visualization manually and failed to use proportional sizes for the data. Now take a look to the example on the right. We are using the same data, but using a data visualization tool. With a data visualization tool, you don't have to second guess the graphical proportion of the data by hand. You simply choose a data visualization type, plug in the numbers, and watch the software render graphics for you. Now that we have covered how to choose and design your visualization, let's look at some of the tools that can help you bring your data story to life. We have Google Sheets with accessible and user-friendly interface. It offers chart types and customization options. Then we have Canva. Canva is a design platform with many beautiful templates for charts and infographics. Very easy to use because it has a drag and drop interface. And finally, it's ideal for creating very beautiful and appealing graphics. Finally, we have Tableau Public. It's free version of Tableau for creating infographic visualizations. It's good for handling large databases, and it requires some learning but offers powerful features. Now we have Infogram. It's an online tool for creating infographics and interactive charts. Offer a variety of templates and design elements. Then we have Microsoft Excel, widely used and robust charting capabilities, suitable for more advanced data manipulation and visualization. Today, we have learned how to choose the right visualization, understanding the type of charts and graphs available, and selecting the one that best fits your data and message. Apply design principles, creating visuals that are clear, accurate, and engaging by following key design guidelines. Finally, utilize tools and resources, familiarizing yourself with tools like Google Sheets and Canva to bring your data to life. Remember, the effectiveness of your data story greatly depends on how well you visualize your data. Good visuals can highlight your key message and make complex information accessible. In our next and final lesson, we will focus on presenting your data story. We will discuss how to structure your presentation for maximum impact, techniques to engage with your audience, and the importance of practice and feedback. Here are some reflections I invite you to make. Consider the data story you are developing. What type of visualization will be best to convey your key message? Which tools will you use to create your visual? Thank you for participating today. I'm excited to see the visuals you will create and how they will enhance your data story. See you in the next lesson. Bye.